You're telling me what if Deku got raped has 30 views? Wow, you guys are fucked up. Like, my regular videos would fucking get 30 views. That shit is fucked all the way up. God damn. Anyway, let's get into the video. I ain't even gonna hold you. Izuku as a young child would start to get his quirk. Now, his mom and dad noticed that there was sand forming on his face. But the thing was, when the sand started forming on his face, it was hard to get off. It was almost like it was embedded inside of his skin. Now, his mom and dad took him to the quirk doctor at the age of 6. And the doctor discovers he unlocked his quirk early. The doctor then tells Azuku's mom that eventually the sand will cover his entire face and form sort of like a second face. And then it will go down from his body. So it's basically like a sand shield. And then he says, Doctor, does he have any other powers? He then says, ma'am, sand manipulation. It sounds useless, but it's actually very powerful if it's used correctly. And eventually, he'll get a shield over his body that cannot be broken by a certain speed. Not even bullets can break that shield. So, the mom then says, so, can his quirk be used anywhere? The doctor then says, well, technically, yes. Everywhere has some type of sand or kind of a dirt-like substance. His his real power is magnet control. So anything that has magnetic um materials inside of it, he can control. So he can basically control everything, even humans, if he focuses his hardest. Which I don't get how Gar didn't get that he can control literal humans. He had magnet release. He could have controlled their entire body. He could have taken over the world before Naruto saw him. And he could have taken out Naruto in a matter of seconds. Let's not get into that. So his mom and dad just accept this, and throughout all the time, Izuku's face would look like this after a certain while. Now, without the blood though, of course, it would start to look cracked. But the sand would form and form and form until he got this face, this normal, um, mediocre face. So, yeah. Izuku always felt empty inside. After he got his quirk, he seemed not to have fun anymore. He seemed just genuinely sad. Now, you guys saw the title. I'm taking a page out of Dark Sage's book. He's gonna get hoed. No, not right now. Not until this episode, at least. I mean, this part. Okay. So, Azuku, while out, he meets a girl that just makes him happy. I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna call her. Sakai. Fuck it, Sakai. No name is a boy's name or girl's name, so I'm just gonna call her Sakai. She looks like the type of bitch that would betray a boy, but that's not my point. Sakai basically Basically, Bakugo has had a grudge out, and he paid um this girl to start a conversation with Izuku and go out with him to eventually break his heart. Now, of course, it worked because Izuku has never been used before. Bakugo was jealous that Izuku got his quirk before him, so he saved up his money from literally all of his paydays and paid somebody to break Izuku's heart. He isn't gonna get held into this episode. Like, what do I look like? A person that just got started with what ifs? I used to have a channel with 800 subscribers. I am not that stupid. Okay, back to this. Izuku would go to school, and Bakugo would try to beat the everlasting crap out of Izuku, which would not work because his shield. Now, his shield does have a mind of its own sometimes, but it's only when Izuku loses control, and he doesn't lose control often. One day, Bakugo got on Izuku's nerves a little bit too much. He decided to shoot multiple ginormous explosions which knocked Izuku into the wall. Which the sand would form on his back so then he didn't, die from the impact, but and or break his neck because breaking your neck doesn't really guarantee that you're gonna die. That's not my point. Um, he basically gets up and he's freaking irritated. His eye, like he's bleeding out of his mouth, and he looks like this right now. And then he freaking Gara styles him. Oh, he Gara styles him, and then he puts sand over his leg, and then he says sand coffin, sand burial, and then all the kids could see is sand. The sand contract, and Bakugo start to scream out in agonizing pain. Now Izuku's still like squeezing the sand even further, so his bones are like getting even more cracks inside of it, causing um more and more damage, which can be permanent. But just so you know, Izuku doesn't have red hair, at least not yet. Right now, he looks like this. Just imagine him mad. He does have the blue eyes, but he doesn't like have the black eye liner and the red hair. Now, he looks at Bakugo with just hatred, pure hatred. He's looking at Bakugo like he wants to truly kill him. The teacher then says, "What are you doing, Izuku? You know you could seriously hurt Bakugo?" And then Izuku says that was the point. The teacher says, "Are you getting smart with me?" I was going to try and help you get out of this situation, but since you want to be a little rude little brat, I'm not gonna help you. And then he says, "Fine." I'm just gonna put this picture up because it makes more sense. He says, "Fine," instead of a normal voice. He says, "But if he ever touches me again, just know I won't hesitate to break all of the bones in his lower and upper body at the exact same time. So then he can feel the pain." Then he says, "Oh, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna break all the bones inside of his lower body, and then I'm gonna break all the bones in his upper body. So then you can feel the two separate pains, just to judge which one was more painful." Which, of course, since he has more upper body, it would be his upper body. Now, Izuku, my bad if you hear noise. Let me mute myself and I'll be right back. Okay. As I was trying to say, as I was trying to say, Azuku basically glares at the teacher, and the teacher's terrified. Like he knows he's not joking. He he looks like if the teacher were to get inside of his way, he would kill him too. He would he would make him suffer because he got inside the way of him trying to kill somebody. And then he smiles and he says, "You got it?" And the teacher just shakes his head and then runs away. Now, Izuku meets back up with the girl, and she says, another fight, huh?" And Izuku says, "Mm-hmm. Bakugo was kind of being mean, so I had to put him in his place." She then says, "You realize the the um the reason that your attendance down is because you're always being caught being bullied. You should just take them out before they could ever really hurt you." Izuku then says, "Nobody can truly hurt me. Pain doesn't really affect me much." And back to the girl. She says, "What do you mean?" Izuku then turns on his sand barrier. The fuck is this? His sand barrier is basically building up. He's like, "This is what I'm talking about. I call this my sand barrier. This is my strongest defense." And she's like, "What's stronger, your defense or your offense?" And by the way, he does have a tilt beast inside of this. So, yeah. He then says, "My offense is a lot stronger. But the more that I use offense, the more my insanity level goes up. I've never gotten to the top or even close to the top. Because people, just from me being irritated, know that I'll break all the bones inside of somebody's body and make them suffer and keep on breaking them and breaking them and breaking them and breaking them into tinier pieces until I'm satisfied. That's why people never get on my nerves." Now, the girl, she just has a confused look on her face. She's kind of like this, but confused. She's like, "Okay." Now, Azuku Azuku goes home. That was the last day of school, which it was a kind of good end for the last day of school. 10 months of training. Now, Azuku's 10 months of training was taken with her because I'm gonna say she has a she has a fire quirk, and he basically spent all of his time with her, basically making his defense impenetrable and not really doing anything for his attack because he doesn't really need his attack. But anyway, one day Deku's just simply walking down a road until he sees a girl being um about to get freaking molested slash raped on the street. So he pulls up and he's like, "Hey, stop, stupid ass nigga." And she, the guys are basically like, "What are you gonna do? You look like you have a basic ass quirk." And Izuku says, "Well, I'm 100% sure my quirk's more powerful than yours, so I really wouldn't be talking." Which then makes the first guy attack him with a knife, which instantly he turned on his perfect Gardo, and he basically says, "Okay, here's how this is gonna go." since I'm pretty sure this girl won't tell on me, since I'm saving her life, I'm gonna kill all of you. Then I'm gonna save the girl. And then she's gonna thank me. Go on with her day. He then says, "You have one last chance. If you apologize and leave, I'll only break your arms and legs." The man, one other man then charges at Izuku, which Izuku still has one man by his arms and legs, and he basically pulls off his arms and legs to not get hit by one of the guy's attacks, and then he basically gets the guy that was attacking him inside of a sand coffin. He says sand coffin, and then he lifts his hand up, and then he starts to slowly crush down, and he says sand burial, which the it just starts raining blood inside of the alley, and Izuku's basically like, I try to tell your friends, will you take up on that offer or not? And then the guy's just not saying anything, and Izuku says, I'm gonna take that as a no. And then he rips off one of the guy's arms, and then lays him there to just die slowly as the guy's screaming. But then Izuku puts sand over his mouth because he does not want to go to jail for killing three men. Like, he wasn't surviving that. He was losing too much blood, and by the time the cops actually did get there, he was probably gonna almost be dead or be dead. So, even. Now, Izuku then says, you're welcome, and I'll see you later, and then walks off. End of 10 months of training, because I'm not gonna end this video off without me finishing the 10 months of training arc. Now, Izuku, I don't know why I can't think. Oh, Izuku goes to the place, but instead of walking there like I normally have him do, he flies on a sand cloud. Which, since he does have, the physical feats of a ninja, he jumps off of the cloud to the school. Like, like five different people freaking screamed because he just came flying out of the air. And to be honest, a normal person would break their legs from the height that Izuku fell, but since he's the reincarnation of Gara, well, he's a ninja, so it didn't really affect him at all. Now, Izuku aces the test, and he goes out, and he then wonders, is my sand dome impenetrable just yet or not? And then he goes in front of a robot and then stands still, and then the robot punches the everlasting crap out of Izuku, which his sand does shield him from, but the impact alone makes Izuku go flying, and he hits a wall, which doesn't really annoy Izuku. He's like, okay, that was kind of boring. And then he sand coffins the robot without even saying anything. And then he looks at 10 more robots and then sand coffins them. And then he does this along and along and along until everybody's running away from one area. Izuku's like, wow, are they really struggling that hard against these robots? Until he feels the ground shaking. Like, he truly feels the ground shaking. Because there were a lot of robots which would explain it, but now the ground shaking gets closer and closer. Now he looks up, and then he sees the zero pointer about to step on a girl, which I'm gonna say Izuku is gonna make a noble sacrifice, and he runs to the girl, pushes her out of the way. And then the Zero Pointer steps on Izuku. Now, do I have to even tell you how annoyed and angry Izuku got? He got so annoyed and so angry that now now he looks like Gara. Like his hair is soaked with blood and his eyes are regular. And he does have that mark up there. Like that mark signifies that he's angry. I'm gonna say that mark right there signifies that he's using his full power and he's angry. Now, I'm not gonna say he has a black eye line on, but it is what it is. Now, Azuku freaking he starts hitting the robot with sand slashes, and then he flies up into the air, and he basically waits for Uraka to run away while the robot's hitting, well, trying to hit him. And then once she gets away and he sees that everybody else has gotten a safe distance, he says magnet style, sand tsunami. This tsunami was the size of the entire place that they were using for the testing, bro. Like Izuku was a little bit over the wave, and then the wave just hits the robot, and then the wave turns into spikes, and the robot's still up somehow, which Izuku's has a sand ear, kind of turning into Shikaku, and I'm gonna say just because I can, he he um he then makes all the sand in the area create a huge ball, and then he says decimating sand coffin, sand burial, and then he destroys the robot, getting infinite points for first off, saving the girl, caught. Well, I'm gonna say he got a lot of points, but he lost a lot of points for the sand tsunami. The sand tsunami was a little bit too strong, and it would have destroyed a lot of places. But he did get a lot of points, like extremely. So his point ratio was at the point, no pun intended, at the point that he would have been able to get in. And then he's basically just breathing, and everybody's jaw is just dropped. They're all like, what the hell just happened? Like, the fuck you mean? Like, they just all confused. And then he puts down his hand, and then he says, that should be enough, and then falls off his sand cloud, which Uraka used her quirk to make her fly into the air and then catch Izuku. Now, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button, introduce your friends to me. I am Moondust with Ifs, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See you later. Bye.